Anatomy is difficult to learn. But is it a waste of time? Let's find out. Hi, my name is Orda, the founder of Fundamentalist, an online art school that specializes in teaching form and structure. Learning anatomy is a headache for many artists. I still remember the pain I went through about 15 years ago, memorizing Latin names and the shapes of muscles, hoping that it would stick. I took a few courses too. We were taught to trace over the reference photo to identify bones and muscles, or sit down for hours in front of a classical cast and draw body parts in front of us. I'd like to think those efforts were not completely in vain. They might have improved my observational skills, my proportions and my sketching. But did they improve my figure drawing, allowing me to draw body parts in any angle? No, they did not. The problem is that the shapes identified representing bones or muscles only work in the same angle on the same model. When the pose changes, the shapes change too. The following image demonstrates this problem. In this image, taken of an anatomy figure in 4 angles, the shape of the visible portion of the trapezius muscle changes as the angle goes from a side view to a back view. Of course, it would not make sense to memorize any of these 4 shapes, because it only works in one angle, one height, and one pose. This does not even take into account the nature of light source, actions such as a raised arm, or surface forms such as folds or wrinkles of the skin. All of these variables change the flat shape in the individual figure that we're drawing. Memorizing flat shapes, just remembering Latin names, therefore, can be a very impractical way of learning anatomy. So how do we make it practical? Step 1. Learn form and structure. This is my bread and butter in learning to draw any subject matter. Learn to draw through their form, show all planes in the 3D space, and treat form as components of a larger structure. This applies to anatomy as well. As you practice, always keep perspective in mind. Try to utilize the simplest geoforms to represent your body parts. This gives you the best chance to show form and structure in the 3D space. There can be multiple ways of simplifying a body part as well. You can use a cube, you can use a rectangular prism, or cylinders as you see fit. Whichever geoform you decide to use, don't forget to draw through and really show what's on the other side as well. Only showing the side we can see is actually pretty useless in this case. Remember, it's not just the initial big forms that you can use this method. Each subsequent bone or smaller muscles can still be simplified into geoforms. You can still show planes, you can still utilize your guidelines and cross-sections. The more practice you get into doing this, the easier time you'll have drawing things in 3D and not just flat. This is a key method to actually be able to draw any body part in any angle. Of course, you can utilize reference images with this. Try to find good references from multiple angles with good lighting that show clearly the components you're trying to simplify. Remember, the anatomical features will morph and change, so you best practice this in multiple angles and different poses as well. In our current live practical anatomy class, we're going through the whole body, breaking complex body parts down to simple geoforms and then reconstructing figures with them. This past Sunday, we started with head to neck and shoulder connection. The recordings have been uploaded for those who cannot make it to live class or want to rewatch them. As you become more and more familiar with the form and structure method, it will be time for step 2. Step 2. Practice to draw body parts in any angle or pose without any references. This is more difficult, but a logical next step in making anatomy practical for your figure drawings. We will still rely on refs to gather information. Multi-angle refs are preferred for this. Really observe how the muscles morph and change in different poses. What happens to the joints? Which bones are rotating or being pulled? Then turn your refs off to test yourself. Draw what you have learned in multiple angles without references to see if you have actually understood their form and structure. The reasoning behind this is that Shapes can be anything they want. They could change in a million ways. But forms, of course, they will look different depending on the angle and pose as well. But by practicing and trying to draw form and structure, you should be able to actively morph and change those forms depending on the angle. So really, we are trying to nurture the ability to observe and draw, even imagine in the 3D space with depth, instead of only memorizing and copying flat shapes. If you liked this video, you know what to do. I'll also include a link down below to my website where you can learn more about myself and my classes. See you in the next one.